Penning a letter to explain his plan, Jack prepared to leave home. Since their mother's passing, his sister Lily had struggled with mental illness, even attempting self-harm, an incident Jack had narrowly prevented. Though Jack hoped Lily could receive home care under their family doctor, she'd been institutionalized, with no visitation allowed. Determined to help her, Jack concocted a scheme to feign madness and gain admittance to the same asylum. As insurance, he left the explanatory letter behind, first inflicting injuries, cutting his hair erratically, and shattering a mirror. Emerging shirtless into public, Jack began bumping into passers-by, cursing and muttering nonsense about imaginary monsters. Soon, police arrived and restrained him as paramedics administered a sedative. Moments later, Jack was transported to the asylum, a guard named Charles carrying him on a stretcher to meet Dr. Giannetti. Despite the sedative's effects, Jack continued his erratic behavior, hoping to cement his facade. Immediately, Giannetti determined Jack required maximum security housing, and Charles escorted him to a special corridor housing dangerous individuals. As Charles strapped Jack to the bed, he explained that a notorious murderer named Mark was one of Jack's new neighbors. On his way out, Charles noticed Mark vomiting blood and entered the cell to provide aid. Mark revealed a hidden blade, prompting Jack's warning shout. Charles narrowly defended himself, locking Mark back in the cell before departing. Enraged, Mark began yelling, inciting the other inmates to join the commotion. Later, Giannetti deemed Jack calm enough for transfer to the psychiatric ward. As Charles escorted Jack away, Giannetti approached Mark, mentioning a treatment called Orpheum and gently subduing him. In the ward, a nurse named Nancy asked Jack to wait while she completed his intake paperwork. Once she stepped away, Jack began observing the other patients. Approaching a woman he mistook for his sister, Jack was met by the friendly Heather, who handed him a note before suddenly accusing him of malicious intent, drawing the nurse Nancy's stern intervention. Guiding Jack through the ward's rules, Nancy was then assaulted by an inmate named Loomis, who began choking her. Retrieving Nancy's panic button, Jack activated it, prompting Giannetti's swift response, a few words calming Loomis, who was then escorted upstairs by the taser-wielding Charles. As Giannetti declared a lockdown, Nancy led Jack to his room, where he feigned sleep. Checking the window for a potential escape, Jack was startled by the appearance of Dave, who simply wanted to ensure Jack's sanity. Dave revealed that the Orpheum treatment, administered upstairs, caused the distinctive white eyes observed in the notorious patient Mark. Observing a flickering light, Dave explained that Orpheum's effects left patients drastically altered. Upstairs, Giannetti was shown electroshocking the patient Loomis, eventually provoking a rebuke from the assistant Vera. Undeterred, Giannetti insisted on administering an additional Orpheum dose himself, causing Loomis's eyes to turn white. The next day, Jack spotted his sister in the garden, prompting him to head to the common room to await her arrival. When Jack approached Lily, she immediately scolded him, insisting she was as sick as their mother and unwilling to be saved. Their heated argument drew the attention of the observant Heather. Later in the cafeteria, Jack discreetly pocketed a spoon, then rebuffed Heather's invitation to her room, despite her persistent yelling. Joining Dave, Jack was soon approached by Charles, who reminded Dave of their deal. Dave was to steal medicine, or else Charles would report him. After Charles left, Dave confided in Jack, promising to keep secret the fact that Jack was not truly insane, which Dave had deduced from Jack's composed behavior. That night, Charles coerced Heather into sexual acts, exploiting her lack of credibility. Meanwhile, Jack attempted to use the spoon to disassemble his bed, hoping to open the window, but only succeeded in injuring his finger. During group therapy, Jack's bleeding hand triggered a violent outburst from the patient Loomis, who lunged at Jack as another patient with white eyes licked the blood. In the ensuing chaos, the nurse's panic button was thwarted by Loomis biting her hand until Charles arrived and tased Loomis into submission. Recognizing Loomis's fixation on Jack's blood, Jack and Dave deduced that Orpheum was more than a mere treatment. Jack then requested a meeting with Giannetti, hoping to retrieve a letter from his apartment. While the letter was recovered, it contained only a few cryptic words, prompting Jack to accuse Giannetti of deception. Unmoved, Giannetti ordered Charles to transfer Jack to maximum security. Yelling and struggling in vain, Jack was transferred to maximum security, with the patient Mark taunting him about seeking revenge. After hours of feeling his sanity waver, Jack reverted to feigning madness when Giannetti arrived, securing his return to the psychiatric ward. Requesting Dave's assistance in sneaking around to investigate Orpheum, Jack initially met resistance until Dave reconsidered, agreeing to guide Jack through the facility, though declining to accompany him upstairs. Navigating stealthily to avoid Charles, the duo accessed an office where Dave stole medicine while Jack secured a security card. With Charles briefly distracted, Jack used the security card to slip upstairs undetected, startled by the intense reactions of the isolated patients. Reaching Lily's room, she apologized and pleaded for help, having witnessed her neighbors affected by the experiments. Forced to flee when he heard Charles approaching, Jack navigated a maze of corridors, including maximum security, ultimately reaching Giannetti's lab. Discovering a caged Loomis, Jack recoiled before locating a bottle of Orpheum and a scalpel, which he pocketed. Hiding as voices approached, Jack observed Giannetti enter with Vera, who warned that the Orpheum was multiplying within the patients. Giannetti grew agitated, restraining Vera as he explained Orpheum was more than just medicine. It was nanotechnology he had programmed. Vera's concerns about Orpheum's potential contagion went unheeded as Giannetti became sexually aroused, cutting Vera and assaulting her as a captive Loomis watched. After the assault, Giannetti ordered Vera to find the mutation and control it. She then taunted the caged Loomis with her bloodied fingers. The next day, Heather teased Jack about his haggard appearance, which he ignored as he approached Dave to share the stolen Orpheum. Narrowly concealing the bottle when the nurse checked him, Jack later recruited Dave to help steal Charles's keys and rescue Lily. Their plan was disrupted by a patient who violently decapitated a cat, then grabbed Dave. Intervening to save Dave, Jack was attacked instead, the two men wrestling as the other patient scavenged the cat's remains. Charles arrived and incapacitated the assailant. Plagued by disturbing nightmares that night, Jack woke and rushed to demand Lily's whereabouts, learning she was with Giannetti. Noticing the nurse's unnerving white eyes, she assured him it was a side effect from Loomis's bite. Dissuaded from going upstairs, Jack was escorted to his room by Nancy. Meanwhile, Vera delivered food to the maximum security patients, one tossing his plate and demanding live sustenance. That night, Dave snuck in, having successfully drugged Charles to steal his keys. As the pair made their way upstairs, they found Lily bound in the lab, pleading as Vera attempted to feed the caged Loomis. Awakened, Loomis violently seized Vera's arm, snapping the bone to drink her blood. Screaming, Vera severed her own limb to tourniquet the wound. Mark offered to join them, but Jack declined. As the nurse checked on Vera, Giannetti's outburst cut the power, unlocking the maximum security doors. While Jack fended off the released patients, Dave managed to open an inner door, using Charles's taser to short the lock and fend them off. Reaching the lab, Jack struggled with the lock as the dangerous patients pursued them. As the pursuing patients closed in, Jack and Dave made it into the lab just in time, trapping a patient's hand in the door. Untying Lily, they learned Giannetti had not yet injected her. Meanwhile, the nurse succumbed to her own wounds. Exiting the lab, the group faced the carnage of the maximum security wing, only to find their escape route blocked, realizing they had fallen into a trap. As infected patients emerged from above, Jack worked to activate the elevator, while Lily and Dave fended them off with tasers, the wounded patients turning on each other. Mark attempted to abduct Lily, but Dave intervened. Joining the fight, Jack narrowly avoided an attacker until Lily incapacitated them. Boarding the elevator, they fended off Mark's attempt to prevent their escape, Jack stabbing him to secure their exit. Reaching the psychiatric ward, they found it in disarray, prompting Jack to have Dave guard Lily as he investigated the scene. Investigating a strange noise, Jack came upon the horrific sight of Heather consuming the lifeless body of Charles. Shocked, he quickly retreated, narrowly evading Heather's ravenous advance. Returning to Lily and Dave, the trio barricaded the door, buying themselves precious time. In the chaotic reception, the uninfected Nancy spotted the group, initially panicked, but soon realizing they posed no threat. Eager to escape alongside them, Nancy guided the trio through the facility, leading them to the kitchen in search of an alternate exit. As they moved, a crazed infected patient attacked, lunging at Jack. However, the trio swiftly overpowered the assailant, dispatching him with a swift strike to the face. With their makeshift weapon in hand, the group pressed on, determined to find a way out of the rapidly deteriorating situation. More infected patients flooded the kitchen, sparking a bloody brawl as the group fought their way through. Finally reaching a back door, they secured it and ascended the emergency stairs. In an office, they encountered the nurse, who claimed Giannetti sought a solution, warning Nancy against abandoning her post. Nancy promptly silenced her. Remembering Giannetti's gun, they hurried to his office, where Dave armed himself with a sword, and Jack retrieved the weapon, along with a letter. Trailing a blood trail, they were ambushed by the nurse, whom Lily swiftly dispatched. Racing through the recovery ward, they encountered Vera, who revealed a hidden lab passage and advised using the laundry chute to bypass the stairs. Before departing, Vera requested euthanasia, which Nancy provided. Continuing their escape, they sought the laundry chute, but were ambushed by an infected cleaning woman who fatally wounded Nancy. Jack fought off the remaining threats, only to run out of ammunition as Heather approached. With Heather in pursuit, Jack kicked her off before joining the others in the laundry chute. After a struggle, he was able to dispatch her. Emerging in the maximum security ward, they encountered the remnants of the infected patients. Mark blocked their path, but Lily swiftly killed him. Reaching the lab, they found Loomis captive. As Jack and Lily uncovered the secret tunnel, Giannetti ambushed them, savagely attacking Dave with an ice pick. The siblings then fought back, overpowering the crazed doctor. Jack seized the ice pick, stabbing Giannetti in retaliation for the injury to his leg. With Lily's aid, they subdued the crazed doctor, tying him to Loomis's cage. Escaping through the secret tunnel, the siblings fled Giannetti's agonized screams. Emerging on the rooftop, Jack accidentally shattered the Orpheum bottle as they descended. Finally, the battered trio was found by police, having survived the nightmarish ordeal. Recounting their harrowing experience, the police raced to the asylum, where a shockingly unharmed Giannetti opened the doors. Hordes of infected patients swarmed the officers, slaughtering them on the spot as the siblings watched, powerless to intervene. Disregarding Giannetti's pleas, the ravaged patients fled into the world, intent on spreading their contagion.
Hello.